Well, I know you and
I call this meeting to order, and we will begin tonight by having the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by, I hope I don't mess up your name, Damiano Hochstrasser.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to welcome all of you who are here in attendance with us tonight. It's nice to have you here, and we have, I think all of our board will be here. Mr. Gertsch is on his way, so I think we will see him shortly. And we have our student reps, some of them from the high schools that will speak with us tonight too, so we welcome all of them with us tonight. The first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda, and there is an amended set of, well, we don't, yeah, we'll approve that next, I guess, but just to approve the agenda.
And I move we approve the agenda with the addendum.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we have, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes, and there are some in the addendum, some additional minutes from the meeting. We have one for a special meeting with the architect presentations from September 6th. We have one in the addendum, a special meeting with the ISBA board training on September 11th. We have a special meeting, work session September 11th, executive session on September 11th, a special meeting on orientation for our student reps on September 18th, a regular board meeting from September 18th, our executive session on student discipline of September 19th, and executive session on property of September 25th. So I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
With correction.
Right. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All right, at this point, let's see, go on and have visitors and correspondence recognition with our Public Relations Director, Courtney Fisher. Oh, there she is. Courtney?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, trustees, Dr. Hale and Ms. Johnson, and our student representatives that are here also. So tonight we kick off our first recognitions for the year for October. And so we have several recognitions to do tonight for the Cake Awards. The Learner of the Month Cake Award recognizes 2 Pocatello-Chubbuck School District 25 learners per month, 1 elementary and 1 secondary from October through May. The Cake Award celebrates positive character and attitude, kindness, and encouragement toward others. The recipients and nominating teachers are recognized here monthly at the Board of Trustees meeting. The learner recipients also received cupcakes delivered to their classes, and we're really happy that Benny the Bengal is going to be our new cake ambassador, and he'll be joining us at our presentations this week. So we'll take cupcakes to those classes, and then the nominations for the Cake Award must be submitted by a teacher who has observed the nominee's behavior and must be approved by that school's principal. Our district believes a safe, supportive, caring, and respectful environment is critical to student learning. The District Education Foundation, in partnership with McDonald's, supports the Learner of the Month Award to recognize students who show great character. So, our Elementary Cake Award winner will Miss Alexis Barchi. Please join me. And you can bring your mommy if you want. So just come up here and stand right here in front of the podium, okay? Just right kind of to the side of it. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So, and Miss Rogers, is Miss Rogers here? Would you join us up here as well, Miss Rogers? Alexis is 3 years old and attends the Lincoln Early Childhood Education Program. In her nomination letter, Ms. Rogers wrote, "Alexis, even at the young age of 3 years old, shows kindness toward her classmates. Recently, another young student started school, feeling very apprehensive. Alexis sensed his uneasiness and comforted him by helping him take off his coat and hanging it up. Then she took his hand and led him into the classroom. Please join me in congratulating Alexis Barchi and our Elementary Learner of the Month for character, attitude, kindness, and encouragement." So I'm going to give you this certificate, Alexis, and you can take it home and put it in your scrapbook, okay? So on Thursday, Alexis, stay here. Don't leave yet, okay? On Thursday, Alexis will also be recognized in front of her peers at Lincoln Elementary School, and Benny the Bengal will be coming to your classroom to give you a shout-out. And Alexis and her teacher will also receive a gift card from McDonald's, and your school library will also receive a $50 donation to purchase books in Alexis's name. So thank you so much. And if you would you please just go and meet everybody at this table, and they'll shake your hand. Thank you so much. And you too, Miss Rogers. Oh, you can take pictures. Thank you, Alexis, for setting an example at your school. We appreciate that so much. Okay, thank you. Let's give her one more round of applause. Okay, now we have our cake award for our secondary learner. Will Mr. Damiano Hochstrasser and his teacher, Ms. Patricia Covert, please join me at the podium? So in her nomination, Ms. Covert wrote, "Damiano has been at New Horizons Center since he was in the 5th grade. He has had many challenges to overcome over the years. He attended the Idaho Youth Challenge Academy, successfully completing the program and earning 14 credits in the process. Damiano returned to New Horizon with a positive attitude and drive to complete his high school education. He has become a role model for other students, taking some under his wing to help them to also be successful. He will finish Block 1 of this school year with A's in all of his classes. On his current path, he will graduate with the class of 2019. We are all proud of Damiano for his accomplishments. Please help me congratulate Damiano for all of his accomplishments and for being this October's Learner of the Month for secondary education. Thank you, Damiano. So tomorrow you will be recognized in front of your peers during second period, and Benny the Bengal will be joining us to give cupcakes to your class so you can be recognized in front of the peers for the example that you've set. So thank you so much. And you also will both be receiving gift cards from McDonald's, as well as a $50 gift certificate for your library to purchase books in Damiano's name. So thank you so much. I have a certificate here for you. And congratulations, and you'll say, let our board congratulate you. Thank you so much. And we appreciate everyone from New Horizon coming out to support Damiano. Thank you so much. Let's give him another round of applause. So next we have our October Employee of the Month, which is our PIES Award. So the PIES, Employee of the Month PIES Award recognizes our employees who positively influence educational success. The award is for employees who go above and beyond in that effort. ISU Credit Union is our educational partner that helps us support this effort that we can provide this award on a monthly basis. Will Mr. Denny Carlson and Mr. Mark Holzer please join us at the podium? So Denny Holzer is our Employee of the Month, and he was nominated by Mr. Holzer. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Holzer. In his I'm just going to read the whole nomination letter because it was really something. In his nomination letter, Mr. Holzer wrote, "Denny is an amazing man and an important part of our school and student success. Not only is Denny the only daytime custodian here at Irving Middle School, but he also helps with many of our at-risk kids during breakfast and lunch. Remember, this school is over 2 city blocks long, has nearly 700 students, lockers and toilets to maintain, and along with maintaining our grounds, he has to help maintain Raymond Park across the street, even though we rarely, if ever, use it. In addition, Denny has to clean up all the trash every time Pocatello High School uses our football field for a game. Just another added responsibility. They don't mean to do that, do they? During the winter, the amount of snow shoveling and clearing is a daunting task, since the sidewalks wrap clear around our building and down the street to the bridges on both sides of the school. Denny also helps and has a huge impact on many of our at-risk students in our school. He accepts many students to serve their detentions with him during breakfast or lunch. He puts them to work cleaning tables, but then spends the time talking with the students about their behaviors and their futures. That time is so valuable because Denny treats each and every student with the utmost respect. He has kind and caring words for them and is absolutely non-judgmental towards them or their behavior. Denny has a special way to open the doors of communication between himself and these students and has the innate ability to change many of these students' attitudes, behaviors, and lives. Denny is a behind-the-scenes hero at Irving Middle School. He absolutely deserves to be recognized with this award. So Denny will be receiving a $50 gift card from the school district and a vacation voucher from our partner in this award, ISU Credit Union. And in addition, for his nomination, Mr. Holzer is receiving a $20 gift card also on behalf of ISU Credit Union for nominating Denny. And I just want to say, with our district's focus on visible learning, even though that's behind the scenes, you are an integral part of what that means to this district. So I just want to thank you and congratulate you on being this month's Employee of the Month. Thank you. And that is for you. And if you'll say hello to our board, and that is for you. Thank you so much. There's Karen. Okay, we have one more sort of recognition that really wasn't on the agenda till today, but today is National Bosses Day. So, and on behalf of the Pocatello-Chubbuck School District 25 team, we'd like to take this time to recognize in front of the Board of Trustees and all of our guests someone who encourages, appreciates, and inspires the individuals working for him on a daily basis. Dr. Hale, would you please join us over here? So this was unexpected, right? So what sets Dr. Hale apart in his role as the fearless leader of our district? I think anyone who has ever had a conversation with him will agree what a good listener he is. Dr. Hale is welcoming and approachable. He listens, processes, and is thoughtful in every decision that he makes. He gives people the chance and the voice to fully express their ideas, and he continuously demonstrates how much he cares about staff morale and the students in his district. Like the students in our district, Dr. Hale is a constant learner. Learning is the heart of his job as superintendent, and it shows with his commitment to visible learning. When principals share stories about what happens in their classrooms, you can see Dr. Hale light up. These experiences...
Or cry.
Get a little misty.
It's okay. These experiences energize him, and then he feeds that energy right back into his team and into those that he leads. Dr. Hale, thank you for guiding with insight and knowledge, recognizing accomplishments, and modeling thoughtfulness day after day. Please consider this as a token of our gratitude for all that you do to support District 25. It truly is the biggest pleasure to work for you. So, thank you.
Oh, they're trying to shake our head.
Yes, Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Appreciate that. Appreciate recognizing our superintendent too, and especially for all those from New Horizons who came. Appreciate your support of Damiano. Anyway, at this point, we have public comment on items that are not on the agenda, but I have not received anything for that, so we will go on now for our student representative reports from our high schools. And I think we will begin today with Pocatello High School, and our student rep here today with Pocatello is Peyton Cates. And so Peyton, do you want to go ahead and?
So a couple things we have going on at Pokey lately is coming up soon in the 26th, 27th, and 29th. We have our haunted house. So we make a haunted house downstairs in our hallway. We use all the funds for that. We accept canned foods to get $1 off on your admission. And we accept the canned foods because we donate the money that we get to Thanksgiving dinners for our students that can't afford it. So it goes to Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners for our students. So we also have our hydroponics club has gotten the pumpkin seeds, plants with flowers, but seeds, I'm not sure what that's about, so I'm sorry. Our marching band got first in the 1A division at the ISU Mountain West competition, and second in the 1A division in the Utah and Mountain Topangos competition, and they received best individuals in both competitions, so we're very proud of our band. 3 students from Pocatello High School have their artwork included in the upcoming Idaho State Civic Symphony highlight. They were Sierra Fry, Arlie Reed, and Daniel Bennett, and they will be each receiving a ticket to attend the symphony and have their artwork included. And our government has been asked to present at the regional conference coming up next week at ISU. So we will be talking about our Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we have a faculty talent show that we put on, and we use all those funds to make a wish. So that's all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Glad to have you here. Okay, next we will go to Taylor Bork from Century High School.
Okay, hello everybody, it's good to be here. So our boys and girls soccer teams have both been awarded the Academic State Championship Award, and our girls swim team has also been awarded that. And our boys and girls soccer leave for state tomorrow in Boise. This past weekend at the ISU Invitational, our band was awarded first place in visual percussion and music, and they also won a state award for the highest scoring band in Idaho. They're pretty amazing. They are just so fun to watch and so full of energy. It's cool to watch them, and they do such a good job. Our football won conference champions last Friday against Minico. District volleyball game is this Thursday at Century. Our cross-country districts start tomorrow, and they're away at Wood River. We also had our PSATs on October 10th for our sophomores and juniors, but this was also a huge day for our seniors and getting ready for college. The seniors spent the day getting college ready, so we had 68 seniors just that day request transcripts to be sent out to colleges, which is pretty amazing this early in the year. We also spent time applying for scholarships and talking about graduation and the requirements. Our freshmen had freshman elections for student government that morning, and they went to a college career fair to get them thinking about their future also. We also had our seniors meet with their freshman buddies, so part of our senior sibling program. The seniors got to talk to their freshmen about how they're doing this year, if they need any extra help, and we were also able to play a little game which was competitive and just made the day a little bit more fun. This Friday, we're leaving to CSI for a college tour where we will be taking about 50 students to tour the campus. And on our way back, we'll be stopping at the football game in Jerome that evening. So, also, one other thing I wanted to mention is our school officer, Officer Barchi, was here earlier, but he left. His daughter was recognized. He did something super cool. So, he got these coupons from McDonald's, and he had about 50 of them, and some of them were just a free drink or a free meal, and he handed them to our student government kids and said, I want you to hand these out to students that you feel who might need a little extra pick-me-up in their day, or to students who you see doing an act of kindness. So I thought this was super cool. He handed these out yesterday, and in student government today we talked about the effect that it had and just some of the experiences that our students were able to witness and be a part of. So one of them I just want to quickly share. There's this girl in our student government who saw someone who's quiet, not as outgoing, and she had her head down on her desk today, and she just walked up to her and said, hey, I have an extra gift certificate, would you like it? And the girl looked up at her, and she just said, of course, she said, thank you so much, you made my whole day. And I just think that's an awesome representation of just how kindness is a chain, and when you see it, you want to be a part of it and you want to participate. And so I think it goes a long way, and especially in schools, we need that kind of thing. And it made our student leadership class want to be better and just want to spread more kindness. So I believe that is all I have too. So thank you.
Thank you, Taylor, for sharing that with us. I think what you said is very true. And then from New Horizon High School, we have Zane.
The first thing is our leadership classes block is working on a tree festival of trees. They're very excited to be doing that. We did one last year and turned out really great. We'll have to see what we end up coming up with this time. The float turned out amazing. A lot of the students loved working on it, loved seeing what they could accomplish and put together when they sit down and do it. Being in the parade was amazing and an honor. It was really fun hearing people compliment our float and just seeing what you can do to the public when you actually get together. The pavilion outside, we love it. Being able to go outside while it's still warm and hang out other than just sitting in the cafeteria. Other than that, really nothing much going on other than Damiano or any cake we're all really proud of have to have in our school.
Okay, thank you. I think this is indicative. These are just a few of the things that are so indicative of why we're so proud of our schools and the kids there and the amazing, wonderful things that they do. And any of the rest of the board have any comments? Okay. Well, you are excused to go if you need to go, or you can continue staying through the rest of the meeting. That's up to you. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next on our agenda is our comprehensive annual financial report and our certification of our annual statement of financial condition. Mr. Reed is Mr. Lansing.
You should be.
Thank you, too. That's great.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and Superintendent Hale. Appreciate the opportunity to take a few minutes and visit with you about our comprehensive annual financial report for this last year. Our independent auditors, Mr. Lamson, is apparently a little bit late. I visited with him a little bit earlier this afternoon, about 2 o'clock, and so I know he knows about the meeting. I'm not sure why he's not here, but you can give him a hard time when he shows up a little bit late, all right? But I'm sure that he'll be here. I'll just go ahead and proceed with your permission, and then I think we'll by the time I get through with what I'm visiting with you about, I think he should be here. And if not, then we'll punt at that point in time. Yeah. We are very happy, obviously, every year that we get to the point in time where we can present to you the report that we put together. Our report is approximately 140 pages, and so it's a very comprehensive document. It is required for all school districts across the state to provide a financial report. Maybe not to this extent, but we have participated in a couple of national reporting programs that give greater transparency to everything that we do in the school district. I think that you have all sat on the board or in these chairs long enough to kind of be familiar with the different sections of how it's paginated and how we work through the actual document itself. The basic financial statements and schedules report our financial position of the school district. I actually find the statistical section to be the most useful as far as kind of drawing comparisons between things over a given period of time, or how things are actually working in our economy and in our local area. I mentioned that we have participated for a number of years, actually 27 years now. We have participated in the Government Finance Officers Association program and also the Association of School Business Officials. And we are the only school district in the state of Idaho who actually has received both of these awards consecutively for this amount of period of time.
Mr. Reed, how long have you been? Just out of curiosity.
Just short of 32 years now. When I first came, we did not do a CAFR, what we call a CAFR, a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and shortly after I came, we started doing that. So it's a lot of work, and maybe that's why some school districts don't go about doing that. But you know, when you go out for a bond like we did about 20 some odd years ago for Century High School and Pocatello High School, you save a little over 0.5% or sometimes even 0.75% in interest sometimes, and so that adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over a 20-year period of time. So this has been very beneficial for us, and also hopefully gives us some credibility that we are reporting the information as openly and as transparently as we possibly can as we look at the operations of the district.
It's quite an achievement.
Thank you.
And,
we have a great team
you've
that...
been ahead of that for some time. So.
Well, and I don't do it all on my own. We have a great team that work at putting this together, and you know, in all the years that I've been here, we've never had an audit exception, and so we try to do things the right way and to be accountable to the public and to our patrons. Thank you. I'm just going to highlight a few things in brevity. If you have more specific questions, we can go over them, but this is in regard to our general fund revenues. Actually, our revenues, we had a very good year, one of the best years that we've had in the district. The state has come forth with additional monies this past year and also this year as well. We are a little over $900,000 in revenues overall, or about 1% in excess of our budget estimates. Our interest earnings were up about $271,000, and interest rates, we actually bumped up our projections at the beginning of last year when we budgeted, but interest rates on the lending side and also on the investment side continued to climb, and so we had a little bit more money come in from that. Also, for our state appropriations through the State Department of Education, we were up about $443,000. That is a small increase in student enrollment over what we had initially projected there. And then our Medicaid revenues are up $212,000, and that's kind of a misrepresentation when you think, oh, well, we got additional monies for Medicaid revenues, but at the same time, we spent that on the other side for special education, and so that's a reimbursable program. And of that $212,000 that we received additional revenue, that represents about our share of 30% of the match for the Medicaid program. So, on the expenditure side, this clicker's, I got to remember that it's back and not forward. On the expenditure side, our general fund expenditures were under budget about $1.7 million, or about 2.37% of our general fund budget. Our salary and benefits were within $240,000, and that's pretty remarkable when you consider that our salaries and benefits are nearly $64 million, dollars. We do an adjustment at mid-year in December and January when we bring our budget revisions back, and so at that time we have our salaries and benefits a little bit more tied down in relation to where everything is settled out, and so that's why one of the reasons why we're able to get as close as we are there. Our utilities last a week ago from today, Mr. Brian Glenn showed you a little bit of what we've been continuing to do by way of energy conservation. Idaho Power was here to talk about some of the incentives that we've done, and we were just short of $500,000 with our electricity, natural gas, and water as far as savings, and we continue to work in those areas there. You know, as we have looked at some of the earmarked funds that have come forward from the State Department of Education, that there are a lot more and a lot more plentiful earmarked funds that have come forth. One of those is in the area of professional development, and it's very difficult sometimes when the state pushes money in different areas, which we're grateful that they gave additional money for professional development, but there is only so much that you can absorb at one time as well. And so we were underspent there a little over $400,000. And then in the area of supplies and textbooks, we were underspent by just short of $700,000 there. That's a little unusual, just so you know, for the year. We're usually much closer than that, but we had a very busy year last year. We did a lot of new things, a lot of professional development, a lot of curriculum and textbook adoptions, but again, it has to come in a systematic and an orderly way in which we can implement that down through to the classroom and to the student. So, yes, I see Mrs. Gephardt. What? Oh, we have the. Are you clapping for Mr. Orr or for our auditor?
Our auditor.
Oh, our auditor. Okay, they're going to give you a hard time, just so you know. Okay, he has thick skin. All right. Our unassigned fund balance came in at $11,753,488. That is the highest fund balance that we have had for a considerable amount of time. And a part of that is the savings that you see above there on the revenue side and on the expenditure side. And we try to be very prudent and expeditious about how we spend taxpayer dollars. If they don't need to be spent, then we don't spend them for things that they don't need to be spent for. But at the same time, we have been able to keep our supplemental levy at $9.25 million for the last 4 years. You know, last year we had nearly, I want to say, $800,000 or $900,000 increase in our medical insurance and our various insurances. And so, even though that fund balance is higher than normal, costs continue to increase and go up year after year in all aspects of the school district operations. Even though that fund balance is over $11 million, that represents only 58 days of operation, or short of 2 months. And GFOA, under their new fund balance, and I've shared this with you before, suggests that a minimum of 5% or 2 months of operating revenues would be appropriate for local governments. And so we're just short of that 2 months of operations overall. On the This just shows the fund balances for the general fund. You'll see that $11.7 million in the far right-hand column there in the first section. And then the other governmental funds are our school plant facility funds, which is the $5,613,000 at the bottom there where it says assigned fund balances. And then we have our special revenue funds and also which are a restricted category up there that we have some balances in. So overall, between all of our grants, our capital projects fund, and our general fund, a little over $19 million in reserves, if you will, there for all governmental funds. This shows the governmental revenues by source. You can see that the state supports about 73% of the overall operations or revenues that come into the district. The other 16% is made up of local property taxes, which includes our supplemental levy and our school plant facility funds. It was higher when we had our debt service fund and our debts and our bond levy, but that has expired a year ago. And so our pie, the sharing of that pie has changed a little bit now this last year. Also on the expenditure side, this is fairly typical. About 63% goes to general instruction for our teachers and for students, etc. The support services that we talk about, which are the custodians like we recognized here this evening, a lot of our clerical staff, utilities and those sorts of things go into the support services. And then about 6% of our district is for capital outlay, maintenance of our facilities and of our buildings. These are expenditures for all funds, not just the general fund. So again, you can look at salaries and benefits for all funds included, which is about 74%. If you just looked at the general fund total, that would probably be closer to 86, 87%, somewhere around there. But this is all funds combined. In our statistical section, these are some of the things that I just like to point out by way of our local economy, etc. You can see on the bottom line there that's shaded under 2018. If you look about in the two-thirds across where it says the total, you'll see $3,497 million of value. You can see that that's up from 2017 value, not tremendously. So I think that some of the property values have leveled off a little bit, even though we continue to see a lot in construction and things of that nature. The homeowner's exemption is now fixed at $100,000. That used to be a variable. It would change year to year, but for the time being, they have indicated that that is going to remain fixed at $100,000 there. This is the principal property taxpayers in our community here, and the area in green shows the 2018, or our most current principal property taxpayers like Union Pacific Railroad, Great Western Malting, etc. They make up nearly $700 million in value, or about 20% of the overall total market value in Bannock County that we receive funding for. And if you compare that to 2009, you can see a little bit how Union Pacific was number 3 back in the day, but how that has changed a little bit over time. And the value was $322 million, or roughly 11% back 10 years ago. So we've had quite a significant change of the principal taxpayers, and also the market value associated with some of those large taxpayers, if you would. This shows our district enrollment trend, and you've seen this before over a period of time. And most recently, our enrollment, counting our Montessori and some of our Head Start students, was about 12,744 students. And you can see the section shaded there in blue is our enrollment projection. And we're still relatively flat, maybe a slight decrease. We are up a little bit this year in enrollment, but not significantly. In fact, the mix is a little bit different than what we thought it would be. So overall, we're going to watch that very closely, because that's where our funding comes from. This is just demographic and economic statistics to look at here, and 2 bars just to kind of compare last year to this year. Our population is up about 1,500, almost said students, but 1,500 patrons or members in our community, which is a fairly significant increase from what we have seen in Bannock County over the prior 10 years, if you will. Our school enrollment is also up slightly this past year. And one of the most contributing factors is last year we had our unemployment at about 2.8% in Bannock County, and it dropped another percentage, or a 0.1% to 2.7%. While that is really great, that presents some real challenges in relation to keeping and hiring qualified staff, because there just are not that many job seekers out there in the market many times when we're looking to fill positions. So we watch that very, very closely, especially in relation to school lunch, our bus drivers, some of our classified staff that we have a lot of turnover in. Also, this is another interesting statistic here to kind of look at, our property and construction values, and this is between the city of Pocatello and the city of Chubbuck as well. You can see as you walk down through there that in 2018 we had 197 actual permits that were issued through either Pocatello or Chubbuck offices for a value of about $34 million, and that's in commercial construction. Now that is lower than it was in 2016 when we had a higher amount that was coming from the hospital and also part of the western states that was starting to kick up, etc. If you look over on the residential side, you'll see that we have 265 permits that were issued, and that doesn't mean just new homes. It may be a remodeling project or a significant remodeling project that would happen, but the significant part about that is that that number is up quite a bit from what it has been. The value, again, is greater than it's been over the last 10 years, of sitting just a little over $22 million. So, again, good indicators that the economy is recovering, that we're strong, things are going well, and that we're building new homes. What is somewhat more unusual is that we haven't seen a lot more students in our school system, but time will tell whether that will change and start to creep up or not. So we'll watch that very closely. I think this is the last graph that I have for you to look at, and this is just the educational information. We had roughly 681 teachers. You can see the various degrees of bachelor's all the way through a doctorate or an ed specialist. If you look down on the bottom, you see that little orange bar there. You can see that teachers with master's or a BA plus 36 or higher represent roughly 58% of our teaching community. So we have a very highly educated and qualified teaching staff in our district, which we're very proud of. If you look at the bottom graph there under years of experience, another telling statistic is if you look at the first two lines, 0 through 4 years and 5 through 9 years, that represents 49% of our teaching staff. So roughly half of our teaching staff have been in our district less than 9 years now. And I can tell you that 10 or 15 years ago, that was very different statistic than what it represents today. But we're very proud of the people that we have in our district and their qualifications. With that, you know, we're always grateful for our community that supports education. Without what they do in supporting our levies and supporting our children and our school systems, we could not do what we're able to do in our school district. So with that comes the meat and potato now, and that is our independent auditor, Mr. Lampson, representing Deaton & Company. And he is going to talk about his opinion and the work that they did this year. And after he finishes, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to entertain those questions. So, Dora?
Mr. Lampson, you made it.
Well, thank you. I thought I made it on time, but it looks like things are moving quite quickly, and I'll try not to slow anything down. I'll try to keep it going. One thing I have learned in this world is there's really only three kinds of people in this world, those who can count and those who cannot. So I hope that doesn't, maybe a little less appropriate before I give you my opinion on the financials, but no. Thank you, Bart, for that introduction. My name is Doran Lampson. I'm with Deaton & Company, and we did perform the financial statement audit for the School District 25 for the year ended June 30th of 2018. In doing so, the financial statements that will be presented or have been presented are the responsibility of management, and they're responsible to ensure that these financial statements are presented fairly and correctly in a in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards. As auditors, our responsibility is to go in there, perform analytical procedures, evaluate controls, perform risk assessments, and additionally we do sample testing, and we perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards. And in doing so, we're required to perform various procedures, as discussed momentarily ago, that allows us to provide our opinion on these financial statements. And the opinion that we are providing on the financial statements are that these financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And that being said, it's considered the term is an unmodified opinion, meaning we did not find any material issues that were not corrected or not reported. In addition, because this is a governmental audit, financial statement audit, we're also required to provide a report on the internal controls and compliance within governing agencies and granting agencies. Because this school district has federal grants that exceed $750,000, the school district is also required to be subject to the Single Audit Act, which we have also performed. In doing so, we're required to test internal controls over compliance of various federal grants over major programs that were tested. In doing so, we did not find any deficiencies or significant deficiencies over internal controls, nor did we find any non-compliance with those federal programs and grant programs. Also, in addition to the governmental reporting, there's two reports that are there. I've already disclosed our findings on the single audit, which were also an unmodified opinion, meaning we did not find any compliance or control issues with the school district on the federal programs. In addition, we provided a report over the governmental, as a governmental agency as a whole, and once again did not find any issues of significant deficiency or a material weakness in internal controls, and we found no issues of non-compliance with the government as a whole. That being said, we do not provide an opinion on the controls of the entity, but we let you know that as we perform our testing, if we do find issues, whether or not we found deficiencies. That being the case, we also want to express gratitude for Bart Reed and his staff and Mr. Hale for their assistance during our audit, and their staff and their assistance in making sure that we have all the supporting documentation and evidence required to provide our opinion. We also want to share our congratulations to the School District 25 for continuing to obtain both awards through ASBO and GFOA. And we also want to thank you guys for allowing us to assist in the audit once again for the School District 25. At this time, if there's any questions or concerns you'd like to ask, I'd be willing to accept them.
I don't think so.
Well, that's even more exciting.
I just appreciate your work with our district.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess with that, it's now time for our media report and community relations update. Ms. Fisher.
I'm going to try this seating arrangement today. Options. So thank you. So this is the media and community relations report for October. Since the last board meeting on Tuesday, September 18th through today, Tuesday, October 16th, there have been 46 media stories, and I emailed you a link to that document with all of those stories. 11 of those stories are district specific. news articles and stories. The other 35 are regional and national stories that, we like to keep tabs on the trends of, what school districts, what's going on regionally and nationally in education. So I think those are important to keep tabs on, so that's why we do that. Some of the local headlines and coverage of interest included the Sleep in Heavenly Peace bunk bed build. If you get a chance to watch that interview, they built those bunk beds last Friday and Saturday. There were 60 of them that were built and delivered to kids who Mr. Hobbs was describing the event to us, and some of these kids have never slept in a bed, and multiple children in the household. So that is just a phenomenal program that the district is very blessed to be a part of. Also in the news were the improvements to Pocatello High School, the state superintendent of public instruction election race, which will continue to be in the news until November 6th and thereafter. And then a really positive story was the monthly District 25 school board tour that Mr. Vitale and Miss Lori Craney and I went on at Idaho. So I really appreciate that opportunity that you coordinated for us, Mr. Vitale. I think it was shed some really positive light on what is going on in our district and what you do behind the scenes so graciously with your time, and I think that's really important to show our stakeholders the amount of time and commitment that you all have to this endeavor and making this school district as amazing as it is. And also I think Dr. Hale shared with you the Go Noodle Plus story that was on KPVI last night twice and then again this morning, and we had some in-studio visits this morning with Mrs. Goff from Tyhee Elementary, as well as Mr. Johnson's daughter, Jaylee, who I think said one word, dancing. But it was a great story, and that really allows us to give Port Neuf Health Trust the visibility that they deserve for generously gifting that program through the Port Neuf Health Trust grant process to us. Also interesting to note, if you check it out in one of those links, is a story about Idaho Education News and East Idaho News are going to be partnering on a regular news video segment spotlighting local and statewide education issues. Why I thought this was interesting is because East Idaho reporter Devin Bodkin is going to be helping produce those videos, and so I think that's an opportunity to really reach out to him and kind of highlight some of the things going on in Pocatello School District 25. A lot of East Idaho news or Idaho Education News is focused in Ada County, so having that touch point here in East Idaho, maybe we can get a little bit more coverage from them. But the segment's going to be called Beyond the Books, and it's going to provide commentary and analysis on the education news in both East Idaho and from across the state, so we'll be closely monitoring that. That story was published on October 4th, and in that story it said that the first story would be published the following Monday. So do the math, they haven't published a story yet, so we'll still be watching that. In terms of social media, we increased the number of individuals following us in the last month by 32. It's a slow climb, but it's still climbing. We've got 7,328 people that follow our page. Of those 7,328, 6,721 like the page. So a lot of people follow. So that's kind of my goal, to get those numbers to match up a little bit more evenly. In that time period, our page has been viewed 1,616 times. We had 46 posts on Facebook with a total reach of 11,264. And then our video views were 952. These numbers are down slightly from last month, even though we had 2 more posts than we recorded last month. So I'm going to be looking at the numbers to see, Facebook has some pretty great analytics where you can see what posts performed well, and you can generally get an idea based on the content, what's working with our audience and what's not working, and we'll try to replicate those posts to get that positive feedback sustained for what we're doing on social media. We also, Twitter is a really slow climb, but we are continually tweeting, and that's slowly growing, as well as Instagram. And then we'll continue to build our presence using diverse social media channels, and that's just going to continue to be an area of focus for me over the next year. Another thing that I'm looking into, and Joel's been out sick, so I haven't gotten an answer on this, but whether or not we have Google Analytics plugged into the back end of our new website, and that will give us an opportunity to really see what our website traffic is, what pages people are going to the most frequently, how much time they spend on those pages. So that gives us a really great opportunity to understand what our stakeholders need and what they're looking for. So hopefully I'll have a more detailed report on what those numbers look like next month.
We don't have any information on number of hits or anything like that now?
Not that I am aware of, no. Unless the website provider offers some sort of analytics, but really my recommendation is that we get Google Analytics on there. And yes, yep. And then in terms of community outreach, deep into the planning of Festival of Trees, I think I counted 5 weeks out, so I'm going to take a deep breath and move forward from that. We've opened up several new sponsorships that I'm really excited to roll out. The gala tables are nearly sold out, with people still calling every day to see if they can get a gala table. So I have a few more, but I'm reaching that threshold level on those. And then I've also reached out to open up more advertising and promotion channels. We've got a couple of new sponsors in terms of advertising to get us just more publicity and more promotion for. I'm hoping to grow the general admission this year, and I think by having Jeeves Ads is one of those partners that we're going to, and they have TV screens in most restaurants that you'll go to, Gold's Gym, the tire stores, and it's just a constant rotating advertising screen. We can change the message, and I think that will give us a really great new avenue. I've had a lot of success with using those screens in the past for other things. Ticket sales go on sale November 1st. And then if you'll please mark your calendars to attend the grand opening. That will be held on Tuesday, November 28th. Any questions? Yes, you have a table. Yes, your table is reserved. All right. If there aren't any other questions, that concludes my report.
Okay. We're going to have a busy couple of months here, that's for sure.
Yes.
So let us know if we can help anyway.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
I think all of us would be willing to help wherever.
The great thing is there's a wealth of institutional knowledge in terms of the committee that works on this event. So I don't know what I don't know until I go through it. So it's been pretty smooth sailing so far, and the community is really invested in this event. So you call the sponsors who have sponsored last year, and they it's not really a sell. It's a how can we help. So okay, thank you.
Okay, we're at the point for report on standing committees.
We went to Judge Murray's meeting this morning. I think that's just a really valuable way to find out what needs to happen to support kids in the community. I think that's really that. And then not too long before I left home, I got a note from Tara Cheveria with the IHSAA announcing the state academic champions. And you heard a couple of those, but girls soccer and boys soccer from Century were academic champions, as well as girls swimming from Century, so they're up there. And then Highland football was the state academic champions too. So those are good things to know about our kids.
I went to Key Communicators this last couple of weeks ago, I guess, wasn't it? But it was interesting. Mayor Blad, the mayors were there. They had a really good attendance, and they gave some added insight into how we can promote maybe our levies a little bit better and use. His one idea was that to use how much money we save parents through dual scholarship enrollment and through cost for college, that we save them all this money, and so they should be more than willing to kind of help us be in favor of our levies and things, but it was kind of interesting to hear their take on that, you know. But so that was something I thought was a little different, and that they don't usually always say much, you know. So, but they had some definite opinions. So anyway, okay. Anything else? Okay. Now, at this point, we'll go to the instructional technology update with Mr. Orr.
Good evening. You have the Tech News newsletter in your packet, which this month is pretty self-explanatory, so it's there for your information. I did want to make board members aware that in the recent past, that Idaho adopted K-12 computer science standards. A subcommittee to help address these, a subcommittee of the Instructional Technology Committee will be meeting to review and then develop a recommendation that will include how these standards can be implemented at each level in elementary, middle school, and high school. Related to that, Idaho has also required that by 2020, high schools must offer a computer science course. The course won't be required for graduation. It just has to be offered as part of our curriculum. We've had discussions with Idaho State University and most recently with Paul Bodley in computer science and Jonathan Holmes, the assistant professor for informatics, about the possibility of offering dual enrollment computer science on our high school campuses. These discussions are in their infancy, and we obviously have many details left to work out, but we're excited about the possibilities and the partnership with ISU. Our subcommittee will ultimately present recommendations back to the Instructional Technology Committee and potentially District Curriculum Committee later this school year. So we'll keep you updated with any recommendations that we end up presenting to one or both of those committees.
That's interesting. I just talked with a young man, and he just got his doctorate in informatics. And I said, I hate to tell you, I have no idea what that is. You know, I just had never heard that particular term, you know, so it's...
We had to ask also, and Jonathan Holmes told us it was basically computer science in the business realm. Correct, Jan?
Yes.
Yep.
Now it was a new term for me.
Yeah.
Informatics does a lot with the data manipulation and displaying of data, things like that. I worked with a guy that did a bachelor's in informatics, and
Right.
that was my first experience with it as well. So.
Okay.
All right, moving to item B then. The report on our October professional development. We actually had a fairly busy week that week. And we actually started on October 3rd and provided training for our teachers who teach integrated math at the middle school and at the high school level. So they engaged in a full day of training on the 3rd. October 4th, then we had training for all of our high school teachers who are teaching integrated math 2. We also had a half-day training that day for our high school Spanish teachers on the Spanish program that we adopted last school year. So we had a trainer come in from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt who provided that for that group of teachers. And then we had quite a few teachers from the high school level that came in for a half-day on the morning of the 4th for SAT training, and that training was provided by 2 people from the college board. We had our English, language arts, math, social studies, and science department chairs and other interested teachers attend that training. The SAT provides sub-test scores that measure a learner's ability to read and analyze social studies and science content. So the training provided strategies to teachers that would support learner achievement on the SAT in reading, math, social studies, and science. So it was a pretty good informative training that morning. Then on Friday, October 5th, we invited Keith Orchard back. You'll recall that we had him here for our opening professional development in August, and he provided continued training on creating a trauma-informed classroom. Our secondary staff met for 3 hours in the morning, and then our elementary staff met for 3 hours that afternoon. And they learned how trauma affects the body, what to do about sensory processing issues, and Tier 1 strategies to increase calm as well as reactive strategies. And then for your information, we have Mr. Orchard coming back to the district November 29th and 30th, and he'll be working with a smaller group of people. Our schools will bring teams with them from their schools, and the focus of that training will be more on Tier 2 strategies for those learners who have been impacted by trauma in their life. So, it's a sad topic, but it's very, very pertinent with regard to what our teachers and our administrators are dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
I did hear from several elementary teachers. They thought it's one of the best trainings they had ever been to.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
It's been very informative. They've learned a lot. He's a very engaging speaker, great trainer as well. So we appreciate hearing that.
So is that training open if we want to listen in?
Absolutely, yes.
The 29th?
The 29th and the 30th. I don't know that we've established the exact times yet, have we?
Maybe Renee could inform us of when that is. Just remind us.
So unless you have any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Orr.
All right, thank you.
Mrs. Creedy, Head Start program update and several other things.
Good evening. So first of all, for the Head Start board report, the ERSI report for enrollment, the program is at full enrollment, 183 students. There are 3 4-year-old children withdrew from the program. 1 child moved, 1 child had no transportation, and 1 child went back to childcare full time. I think it's good that they're tracking those reasons. I think we always wonder if transportation, what impact it has. 31 applications are on the 4-year-old waiting list, 12 applications are on the 3-year-old, and they're continuing to take applications. For the average daily attendance was 93.46%, and the program will begin to look at chronic absenteeism in November. For personnel, there are 2 positions that are open. The head health manager's last day was October 12th, and they conducted interviews today for that position. And until the position is filled, the Head Start coordinator and the other managers are overseeing that position. The Lincoln Food Service cook's last day is October 22nd. That position is currently posted on the website. Both employees moved on to higher paying jobs with full-time employment. The program has hired a new food service cook, Janine Grace at Tyhee, and her first day was October 9th. Policy Council, a new Policy Council was seated on October 11th. There are 18 new and 2 returning parents on that Policy Council, and there are 5 community representatives. The program is working on the application for the supplemental funding. The grant application will be presented to the board at the November board workshop for review and input and considered for approval at the November board meeting. So that's for Head Start.
Did you say we don't have a work session on November?
Ooh, that'll be, well, you know what? Then we'll just figure out what we're going to do there. How about that?
I want to let them know that.
Yeah.
If we need to, we can put it in under reports.
Okay, good. I'll have her, we'll get in contact with her for that, yeah. That one slipped right by me and I knew that. I just saw that come through. Oh, if the board chooses to not have, then we will relook at it. How about that? Okay, and after-school program started October 1st. As of last Thursday, they have 204 out of 260 students enrolled. So I'm pleased. I was up at Jefferson today, and they have 40 students that are enrolled and in the program with the waiting list already. And he said, oh, yes, we got off to a slow start and didn't add all 40 at once. And I thought, we're only a few weeks into this. So it is a very vibrant program up there, at all the schools. But I'm thrilled to see that we're able to have one there at Jefferson. They really do take advantage of making sure that those slots are filled there and have some great things going. They're fully staffed, and they're having a Lights On celebration on the 25th of October, where the learners will be teaching their parents how to do paper circuits and making light-up Halloween cards. So I'll have her get an invitation out to you, because those are always fun events. We were able to start the backpack program. They had a half a month there in September, so you'll know that 307 food backpacks were distributed. We will be updating the contact person list. That is out of date, so if you notice some people there that have retired, yes, I'll have Melody Hanula is the one that is keeping track of those for us this year. So they were ready to get started with that program, and that really shows what a great need that there is, because they were really looking forward to it. Next in there is the Pocatello Community Charter School, the framework, and you'll just note that I just updated it so that we would know kind of where we're standing, rather than the certificate is up in June, but that way it gives us a heads up on where we are without something kind of going, us not paying attention to beforehand. So you'll note that there are a couple of areas on this one, and I did add a code up at the top of there. Anything in this framework there that is gray are sections that will be deleted because they based on accountability systems or redundant wording, and so they're ones that we'll be getting rid of, and we'll be adding the yellow when we redo the framework, when we look at it in terms of the performance certificate.
It almost looks like they were using like the old STARS framework.
They were. That's what, when we started with the performance framework, that's exactly what we started with. Then we didn't use the framework, and then we started to add some more go back and add some in there. We will be looking to add in our new accountability system, but I'm waiting just a bit to add that in, because I know that the Charter School Commission will be creating a framework, and we'll be able to pull from there to put in more of the current accountability system, where we have looking at all of the different aspects and all of the indicators there. So we'll be working on that and watching for that. We did use that. Their math was, both of their areas in ELA and math on the ISAT were above the state average, and my math was incorrect on there. They were 2 7/10 points above the state in the math average, and 10.1% percentage points above in ELA. And I know that Mr. Mendive did recognize that math is their area where they are working, and where they note that there's continual need. Also in here, just a couple of areas in there that we note, they're still continuing to work on adopting policies and procedures, and Mr. Mendive reports that's been the work of their governing group. And so it's not done. He said they've made progress, but they're still not there yet. And
that he knows that they can call on ISB.
Yep, there is a note in there, and he did say that they're now a member of the ISBA, and they've been receiving training and support. So there you go. Yeah, so I'm glad to know that they're calling on them. The other one where they do not get the points is their lack of transportation, of transporting their students. So that one will probably continually be an area where they do not receive all of the points. When it's summarized, they have 72% of their academic points, 96% of their operational, and 100% of their financial. And you heard from their report at the work session, they're getting it pretty solid in their financials, their practices, and even their savings has really been increased, and we're glad to see that, and glad that they're really taking that into consideration. Any questions? Oh, and in the addendum, there's the letter that I will be sending to them that just summarizes all of this and lets them know where we are. I think also Mr. Reed also creates a letter that goes with them on their financial report. So we try to follow up with that every year. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. This is Harwood.
Be happy to know. I'll be brief. So the first thing in your packet is Policy 8705 on student activity and participation fees and student fines. And the changes to this policy are just the addition of swimming as in our list of extracurricular activities that require a participation fee, as well as some clarification for parents and legal guardians regarding liability for unpaid fees, fines, and unreturned property, and the potential to be taken to collections should those not be addressed. And this, the board will be asked to hear the policy on second reading under old business, and we did not receive any input from the public on this particular policy. The next item are the out-of-state overnight travel requests. They're just two, one for Highland High School's band and one for the outdoor club at Century High School. In both cases, we have the appropriate number of chaperones and the right genders for our chaperones.
Under the one lodging, it says 3 rentals. Is that the name of the place? Or
It's actually condominium kinds of rentals, so. The next item is the camp reconciliation report, and this is the report for all of our camps that were held through 2017-18, and it's in a spreadsheet.
You know, the discrepancy here just blew my mind.
She's ready to go. This is Harvard has a great explanation.
I don't know if it's a great explanation, but I'm going to tell you the explanation because I was struck by that too. So there's always been a question, Mr. Reed will disagree with me here, but there's been some question about what's a camp and what's a fundraiser. And Highland High School, who has had some experience with this and the need for this reconciliation report, really follows what was established a number of years ago, probably 8 years ago, that determined that anytime a skill is being taught, it's a camp. And so that's why Highland High School has everything. There are the camps for, let's say, a Highland High School football player, as well as the camp for middle school and elementary students who participate in a football camp. And you'll see that all the way through there, like Little Ram Wrestling. And so it's their own students as well as younger students. And in the cases of Century and Pocatello High School, they don't run as many, and some of theirs that they classified as fundraisers, and I approve them as fundraisers rather than camps, and we'll clean that up for this school year, but that explains some of the discrepancy. And I'm going to tell you the other thing that is pretty evident. Highland has figured out that this is how you build programs, and this is how you build funds for programs. And so you know, this is Mr. Bell's expectation that rather than sell something, we provide skills for learners throughout the district. And so I think that also is evident in this particular report.
Well, and I don't know, maybe all the ADs or something need to get together and figure this out.
Yeah,
I mean, so it's a little more equitable somehow, and because I saw it's twice as many reporting, or a little more than twice as many.
How would you expect them to do it more equitably? Highland's just doing more, period. It's just
Or it could be not reflected in here. It could be that Century ran, you know, I'm going to make it up, it's probably Pocatello High School who ran a volleyball clinic on a Saturday for middle school girls, and I approved it as a fundraiser. It should have been approved as a camp, so it would be reflected here. So I have, you know, I'm fairly certain that happened.
So we need to fix that.
We will.
What were you going to say?
Well, I just said the ADs, there's a lot of egos there. That's reality.
They don't work really together.
Yes, they work really well together, but they do work really well together.
Troy Bell has some proprietary information he may not want to share.
I think we know
Trade
I
secrets.
think we know what he's doing, they just have to listen, we don't want to.
I just would like to see, I know, and Highland has a whole lot more students, I realize that too, but I still would like to see it more equitably.
You know,
Equals as much as we could.
a really good example of this is, it was the weekend of October 5th, 6th was that Saturday, and Highland ran a JV volleyball tournament that weekend. And you know, they're just willing to go out there and go after that kind of funding. You know, it takes a lot of work, and you have to have your volleyball coaches willing to put in the time, and you have to be able to find the officials that you need, and they know it's a moneymaker, and it also provides opportunity for JV volleyball players. And so we just need to, I think, work with all the other two high schools to make sure that they recognize that this is a fundraising opportunity that also builds skills and program for the district-wide. Another example is we've always done the Fleischman Wrestling Tournament at Pocatello High School. And Irving Middle School has traditionally done the Irving Middle School invite for wrestling. And it's a lot of work, and Irving decided this year that they just have more on their plate than they can manage. And so they turned that, you know, they said, you know, that weekend is open if somebody wants to do something. And so Pocatello High School jumped on that, and so they're calling it the Pocatello High School Classic, and it's for middle school students. And the one at Irving had only been for, you know, middle school varsity, if you will, and I believe they've tried to expand it so that it'll involve more wrestlers. And so I think the other two high schools are jumping on this, and I already have Mr. Anderson at Century mad because he didn't know about that free weekend and that opportunity. So I think they're paying attention, and I think we'll naturally see it, but I will make sure that we're approving camps as anything that involves teaching our learners a skill throughout the district as a camp, and that will address some of this inequity.
And that we can encourage some of those opportunities too. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And then the last item in your packet from me is the assurances, the document that are the assurances between the Idaho State Department of Education and the Pocatello-Chubbuck School District relative to the Comprehensive Support and Improvement, CSI, UP school funding. And this is essentially the funding that will be provided to Kimport Academy to address their school improvement planning. And at this point in time, what we've been told, it's $50,000 a year to support some efforts on the part of Kimport Academy. And I took the time to call Mrs. Prescott to ask, you know, where are we on this? Mrs. Prescott took her leadership team from Kimport along with Mrs. Kinghorn from Title I and myself to a training in Boise where we were told how much money and some of the rules regarding how that money will be spent. And we also have a capacity builder that's been assigned to Kimport, and he will be meeting monthly with Mrs. Prescott. And there is what's called a Zoom meeting, which is just a webinar kind of meeting that's interactive with the State Department on Friday. And that's when Mrs. Prescott will be paying attention to what are the kinds of things that might make a difference for Kimport in addressing their ISAT reading, ISAT math. And we know that those students are at Kimport because they have had significant behavior challenges and consequently suspensions. And so we have gaps in learning, and so we're looking to see just what might be a plan that will address that. And Mrs. Prescott and I are going to meet with Kathy Louris and Mr. Orr, along with Kimport's building leadership team, to talk about some possible software that might help fill holes that students have, and then also allow those teachers then to continue to make sure that these students continue to grow while they're at Kimport. So that's what those assurances will help us do. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Reed, Business Operations. My favorite Idaho General Fund report.
Well, the good news is that we're in almost exactly within a few $1 million of where we were at last year after the first 3 months with the state. So, each of the 3 months have just been slightly below their estimated budget, but overall they're about $13 million below their budget estimate, or about 1.4%. But again, if you go back and do that in comparison to last year at this point in time, we're almost equal with where we were. And we had a great year last year with the state. So I don't think we can be overly disappointed. We just may not be as overly optimistic as where we had hoped that we might be. So a good report overall. The great news is that it's not significantly different or under from what the state has projected. So we'll hope for good things there. The next item is the eligibility percentages for our food service program, free and reduced meals. And I think this actually went up just slightly from where we were at last time. We were sitting about 48.75%, so that's good overall. And I know that the folks in the schools and also in food service program have been working very, very diligently to identify and help families be eligible for any benefits through that program that they might be eligible for. So it's been running very well so far. Item C is the Idaho School Boards Association, and we, from time to time through the ISBA insurance plan, depending upon if they have a good year or a bad year, may receive a dividend back, and we received back $14,654, so we'll just offset that back against our premiums that we pay, and it'll just go back as a credit. So,
is that about what we got last year?
I don't remember actually what we received last year. It seemed like it was even less than that. I seemed like it was maybe $3,000 or $4,000. It was not as big of an amount, and
well, part of that was because all of the winter damage that happened.
Right
prior.
up in the Boise area, right?
So we didn't have as many dividends. This last year wasn't so bad.
Yes.
But Weezer last year, the year prior, we got slammed as well as some other places. So I think that's why.
I do believe that you're correct in that respect. The next item is an item we've kind of already talked about, the response to our financial audit report from the Pocatello Community Charter School. I don't think there's any surprise there in the language of the letter. I think overall they had a very good year, as we did, and we don't really find any exceptions or any strong recommendations other than that they continue to do the best they can and keep a strong financial position. So they're doing okay there. We'd recommend that the board would approve that letter under, I believe it's under old business, if I'm correct. Yeah. The next item, which is item E, is our annual request to bid various projects for our capital improvement program. You can see the large list alphabetically there, from asphalt, boilers to roofing, vehicles, etc. We do this primarily so that we can get out ahead of the time to secure bids and to bring them back to the board before the bid market gets really strong and saturated, if you will. It honestly saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to get out of the chutes first and to try to get going on this. So if we would ask that you would approve that under new business. And then lastly, I just wanted to just let you know that we have been kind of following some of the new and proposed subdivisions between Pocatello and the Chubbuck area. I don't know if there's anything really earth-shattering to share with you. As part of our financial report, we indicated that there were 265 new residential home permits, whether that's a remodel or a brand new home. And that's a higher number than we've seen in the last 10 years. So we are seeing more and more. This is probably not a real accurate, but let me give you a reflection of what we've seen kind of come across the school district here from the city of Pocatello. And again, this may not be a totally accurate number, but just based on the information that we have right now. Between homes or apartments like fourplexes or duplexes and things of that nature, in Pocatello we've seen roughly 350 to 370 proposed improvements or buildings. So some of these plans we're proposing a 35-unit subdivision, but it may take 5 years for that to fill, or longer, or maybe shorter. We don't know. And that's from the city of Pocatello. From Chubbuck, we've seen roughly 230 to 250. So the number isn't quite so important as it is that we're seeing a lot of movement of proposed building, whether it's this next year or over the next 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 years. We are seeing movement in that direction, which is a very positive thing in our community. So we'll continue to watch that. If there are specific areas that may impact specific schools, then we'll have to watch that very closely, because some of these projects, most of these projects, don't impact any one particular school. They impact the district as a whole, but some of these areas may impact a specific school, such as an elementary school or possibly a middle school or something like that. So as that information becomes available, or as we see those sorts of things, we'll try to share that with you to the greatest extent that we can. Dr. Hale, did you want to say anything? You had that look on your face like maybe you wanted to add something.
No, I
but
think you picked it up, Mr. Reed.
Okay.
You talked about it earlier when we were looking at our growth,
Mm-hmm.
and projected growth.
Yes.
And it is just flatline. I mean, we watch that weekly, bi-weekly, or every other week.
Yes.
And, barring something just exploding, we're doing well. We're managing the learners that we have, and in the facilities that we presently have, and
right.
with some projection for anticipated growth based upon what we see happening and what our community leaders tell us.
It picked up as if the charter schools are taking up extra kids, but when I look at those numbers, they aren't changing that much.
Well, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I visited with Mr. Love, Gerald Love, who's the principal at Tim Prep Academy, just last week, and he said that they were looking at expanding their first through third grades, adding one additional classroom in each of those primary grades, and then one seventh grade and one eighth grade classroom next year. So that won't have a significant impact on the district, and may keep us about the same, or slightly less or slightly more, again, depending on growth.
Well, and I was just going to add to what Dr. Hale said there. I think that the important thing for us as a school district to understand, and especially for our community to understand as well, is that at the present time and into the near future, our building capacity from elementary to middle school to high school, especially after going through the secondary boundary revision that we did here some time ago, we are able to handle the students that we see in the near future. Now, unless something majorly changes or upsets the apple cart there, we're in a position that we can continue to use the available facilities that we have before us and fit students in those schools and run a great educational program. Now, that doesn't mean that things won't change, but for the near future, we're very well positioned for that. So I think that that's important for especially the public to understand, because there's a lot of rumors floating around there about we need this or we need that, but we have to look at the data. We have to look at the seats that we have in our chairs in our district and even in our charter schools that we have in our community, because they eventually filter back into our system. And for the time being, we're in a good position. So we watch that very, very closely, because we don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball saying, oh, wow, we need to have a new school here in 6 months. I mean, we'd never want to be in that position, but we're very careful to kind of continue to monitor that and to continue to look at it. So
I was wondering I'm not sure how complete the FBI center is.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working on that. It looks like they're getting closer to being done. I wonder about that influx, what that might.
Well, we know about the estimated number of jobs that will infuse into our community. We know that it's going to be a gradual infusion, meaning that we're not going to have 300 or 400 people here immediately the week after the building's ready for occupancy. That will gradually happen over a period of years, and so how that will impact us by way of the makeup of the individuals that either move into those positions or transport in via other locations that say they work for the FBI in other locations throughout the country. We don't know if they'll come in with high school age children or if they'll come in with primary age children or what. And we're just going to have to kind of take that in stride as we go. I think that we'll see those reflected in our numbers year by year over the next 3 years. But, 400 people moving in, when you look at the average size of families and the number of children that they have in there, which is not as many as it was 25 years ago, we should be able to absorb them, and we'll just have to look and see how that happens. So it's anyone's guess at this point in time. We really can't fret about it too much, but we need to be prepared as much as we possibly can. Okay, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Mr. Smart, Employee Services.
We've already touched up on one of my topics tonight, so we won't even have to go there, will we? Just 3 short items for you tonight from my section of the agenda. Of course, every opportunity we get, we like to let you know if there's anything coming down the pike in the way of Infinite Campus or IC or technology updates. And I guess the most obvious technology update you can see right now is the one above your heads. And of course, with the change in the city's video services, we went to our own video service and broadcasting over Facebook.
Are we on YouTube right now?
We're recording. Recording, you wanted me to record.
Okay, we're recording.
So anyway, that's new for us. So we're not live, and so.
So we can edit it. So we don't
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but if there's a real faux pas, that maybe some could handle that way, and so that's why we have Kevin here tonight, to make sure everything looks and runs like it should. As far as any other technology or Infinite Campus updates, I don't really have anything for you other than to tell you that we did get our first IC submission out the door this last week. In fact, did a day and a half early. So, of course, there will be things to clean up as we get into the data, and so we'll have about 6 weeks to deal with that. The good news is we're closing in on our first reporting period, or the end of our first reporting period, which is the first Friday in November. And that kind of leads me into the next section, which is attendance. But after that attendance window closes, then we have to go through all the reports, and we have to fix misassignments and some odds and ends like those that we might have through ICO through the month of December. So we will be doing that. But on the flip side, when we talk about attendance, you have your attendance reports, and you already talked about them a little bit tonight. When you look at where we stand in relation to where we thought we were going to be last spring as we created our budget, of course we do a wild guess. I'll have to be honest, it's a guess. Scientific, of course, but trying to determine how many units we should be funded for. And right now, according to this latest attendance report or membership report you have in your packet tonight, we actually have just about 100 kids more than we thought we were going to have. The bulk of them in elementary schools. And so it changes our funding a little bit. And as I mentioned, the first Friday in November is that cutoff. And so we can probably take it to the bank. We're going to have between 3.5 more units than we thought we were going to have last spring for our salary apportionment. So that's the good news. We're not going to be short. So, and I'm not going to go through a lot of that attendance data in great detail. So you have, unless you have other questions, we can move on to the last item on my section of the agenda.
Madam Chair, just maybe a commendation for Mr. Smart and the team, Joel Berkman and Tiffany in special education. It was a new format this year, to start, and categories and assignment codes and things were very much different.
For IC?
Yes, for IC reporting. And so with thousands of errors, Carl and his group managed to get that cleaned up and still processed and submitted ahead of time. So,
And there literally were thousands of errors. Tiffany, she had a pretty, how do I want to put this? Her job was kind of double this year because she had to kind of marry two different systems to get to her data, because they're in the transition to going to a new special ed system. And so she was working two systems and trying to make it all come together, and she did a heck of a job to make that happen. So we had that conversation yesterday, and so she deserves a lot of credit for what she had to go through this time around for her special ed submissions.
I'll just add, you would never know. Tiffany's always smiling, she never gets stressed. I had no idea. I told her so. You're amazing because you hide it well.
Yes. And the last thing on my section of the agenda is our wellness dashboard. You have that in front of you. Not a lot of changes from the previous month. And the important numbers we like to look at are the loss experiences. On the back page, in talking to Shauna, who puts this together, she says our medical a year ago was about 122%. So we're better than we were a year ago.
How did you get 122%?
We spent $100 and to 100. Basically, that's what it was. They're guaranteeing, but they'd like us to be at 80. Right?
Yeah.
They would be at 80, and they pay us 100. We pay them 100, and we're 108.
Yes.
Basically, that's it.
So
So we're 28% over. And if it continues like that, then we're going to have a big increase again. And that's
so, hence that our fairly significant increase we had this year. So, Mr. Mattson's right. For every dollar they get in premium from us, they paid out $108, and for every $100 in premium, they paid out $108 in reimbursement to the providers.
Very much not.
Now, one thing I just want to add to this, and it's something that you've asked over the last couple or 3 months. I noticed in the news today that Regents Blue Shield has finally has a contract with the emergency room doctors up here to Portneuf. So things are starting to move. I didn't have a chance to ask about Pacific Source, but I do know that that Blue Cross of Idaho does now have a contract with those physicians.
Good for lots of people.
So I will find out what we can and maybe shoot you an email so you have that information. But things are starting to move up there. So with that, that'll conclude my report tonight, unless you have other questions or comments.
Okay, so for the HR reports, do you remember that we had a math teacher from Highland that was going to resign at the end of the first try? They have found an excellent replacement, Jason Hebden, and he has been doing tutoring for our high school kids in their upper division math classes on the outside for the last 5-6 years at least. Knows our system, knows our kids. He'll be an excellent replacement. We have a math teacher from Alameda who resigned as of the 3rd of October. And on the addendum, you'll notice that they have a math teacher that they would like to hire. She's a student teacher currently, has been working with our math teacher at Alameda and has been doing a fantastic job. So we're going to be requesting an alternative authorization for her. She has just her student teaching left to finish, and she will be done with that in December, and then she'll be good to go. But we need to get a content specialist for her. And then we have an alternative authorization for a teacher over at Lewis and Clark. And Mr. Smart told you that our IC upload went really well. We had a few things that, because they changed codes on credentials, all of a sudden we have teachers that can't teach what they've been teaching for the last 5 years. So we have a teacher at Lewis and Clark who has a special ed credential, a K-12 generalist, and she's been teaching 5th grade for us for the last 5 years, and now they're saying, well, she needs to have a K-8 credential. So we're going to apply for a teacher to new endorsement for her to get her K-8 credential. Yeah, it was loads of fun. We had one early childhood teacher coded on ours, had a copy of her certificate. It said early childhood, and they said she can't teach kindergarten. We went digging. They no longer used that code, so they reassigned it to be school counselor. So on the State Department's website, her credential is in school counseling instead of early childhood. So, and she's a kindergarten teacher. And the paper I have in my hand says, early childhood. So
everybody's having this nice.
Yes.
They changed all this.
Yes. Yes. The other one that we're just going nuts with is we have all subject K-8 teachers teaching middle school health and PE, which they've always been able to do until this year. Now they have to have a K-12 health credential or a K-12 PE credential. So the State Department's working on that one because they said, oops, something's not right there. So, yeah, it's not us, but it's been interesting because they've been reusing codes that they haven't used for a while and they're assigning them to other people. But
it's too bad we can't charge the State Department all the extra time it costs.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be nice. So,
maybe they wouldn't do it so often.
It's been fun. And then we have some stipends to request action on for some of our professionals that are teaching classes for our other teachers. And then last but not least, we are requesting a revision in kinds and levels. And Renee, I'm going to apologize to you right now because I did forget one. We did a wage study for all of our classified positions. And we had several positions that were significantly underpaid, not only at the low end, our starting rate, but also at the high end. And so at the beginning of this year, we extended our kinds and levels charts out another 5 years, so we caught up on the high end on a few of them, but we still have 3 or 4 positions that are absolutely ridiculously underpaid. And I will give you an example. We've been trying to hire a lead food service driver for 4 weeks now. And the amount we pay is $3 to $4 less an hour than they can get working at any other driving job. So we're going to request that we move our food service delivery driver and our and our stock clerk truck driver up to a level 3. And then our lead driver receiving clerk from a level 3 to a level 5. That jump is simply because that person is responsible for millions of dollars of food service inventory, and they have to start work at 3 o'clock in the morning. And to meet deliveries. So it is significantly more responsibility than just a regular food service driver. So we would like to compensate them and be able to offer a wage that we could hire somebody and keep somebody for more than a week and a half or 2 weeks. The one I forgot, Renee, and I apologize right now, our receiving clerk is a level 3. And that is another one of those that's significantly underpaid, and we'd like to move them to a level 4.
What's this database manager?
We're going to that one next. So, technology has they have application specialists, and they deal with and Kevin, you can jump in whenever you want to. They deal with all the applications that we run through the district. So, Infinite Campus, the
Do you want me to explain it?
iStation. Yes, please. Be my guest.
Our application specialists are our employees who deal with front-facing applications, so iStation, Independent Campus, there's a ton of them. But any forward-facing application that a staff member would use, we have an application specialist that's assigned to it. So that way, if a teacher calls, they have someone to go to. They're also in charge of rostering and managing all of that part of it, as well as being on our help desk. So they answer the individual technology questions that they see, and then a lot of other duties is assigned for them.
So when we had the security person opened that job, that we talked to you about last month, one of our application specialists got that job, so that job was opened. When we started looking at what technology really needed, what they really need is a database manager to make sure that all of our information in our database is clean, it's put in correctly, it can be accessed, it can be it's consistent and managed. And so the request was, could we hire a database manager instead of an application specialist? I said, okay, what does that entail? It's a whole lot more knowledge and a whole lot more responsibility. Could we pay them one step up? I said, well, I will ask the board and find out. But it is, what they're doing, instead of hiring another application specialist, they would like to hire a database manager. They have hired somebody for that position right now. We're paying them at the application specialist, but the responsibility and the knowledge base needed is significantly higher. And so we would like to pay them, instead of on level 10, to pay them on a level 11. The difference for all of those changes that I talked to you about is about $7,700. And it would help.
An annual salary?
An annual salary. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like much to us, but when you take a driver and give them $1.50 an hour raise, it's a significant raise. And so, and we can attract and hopefully keep, because the training that's involved in that food service driving especially is significant, and having turnover in there is difficult. So,
I think we get the problems that arise from.
Yes. Well, and just being able to find somebody to be able to, that's willing to do that. 3:30 in there, 3 o'clock in the morning, and throwing freight. And if there's deliveries on the weekends, they're the people that are there on the weekends to meet freight too. So, and we have deliveries that come in regularly on the weekends. So.
If the board is okay, then we'll just have you approve that. I can start with the amended.
With that amended? Okay. Go ahead.
But you changed 4 titles on here.
Yes.
I feel that there's 25 more that we should.
We're looking at them. These are the ones. No. These are the ones that were significantly underpaid. We're close on some. We're farther away on others. These we were not even in the ballpark for.
So should we expect more then?
I don't know if right now or in February, March, when we look at. That's when I'd like to do because we need to do another analysis and see how outside's going now.
I was wondering maybe if you were doing this kind of like
a piecemeal at a time, like this.
We identified this month.
No.
Next month there's going to be a couple of more
because we're still chewing that elephant down.
That's right. Yeah, I know how hard this is.
Like I said, we started with the significant, and then hope to propose some raises.
And what I might tell as well is, we tried to do some things with the salary schedule this year. It might be another boost next year.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Try to do some of those things.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Now we're on to the superintendent's report, and we're starting with the district strategic plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Those first 3 items for you, district strategic plan for 18 through 2021, that seems kind of strange just saying that, but it was. And then the operating principles and the code of ethics for school board members. We talked about those and discussed them at our board retreat earlier. And so unless you have any questions or additional discussion that you'd like to add tonight, all of those would be heard, well, not heard, but for your approval under old business. The fourth item for me tonight is the amended board meeting schedule, and we touched on that a little bit earlier tonight as well. And that would be to cancel the November work session so that we could attend a tour with Mrs. Nafs regarding the CTE programs in the Treasure Valley area. And so, again, that's under old business tonight.
What time will be leaving?
Are those, do they know yet?
I visited with Mrs. Nafs this morning and asked her to finalize the details for us, but I would imagine it would be between 7 and 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I saw that, and then I saw 10:30. You know, how are we going to get it all in?
Yeah, right. So, again, I just talked to her this morning, and she had been away for a time, a son with a wedding, and then she's off to Coeur d'Alene for a conference tomorrow, but she will have that to me, and I'll give it to you right away. Yeah. Okay. And then, let's see, your board calendar, we've got a lot of strategic plan to move fast. What is that?
I'm on 115.
115. Let me just get the plug the manual. So we have potentially some student discipline hearings next Wednesday, and again, we won't know if we'll hold those or not. It's all depending on Wednesday's DDRC schedule and what comes from the recommendations from that committee. And then you can see November 5th, Mr. Manson and then Foundation Board meeting. November 6th, election date. And then, now, did we reschedule board visits, Renee? So we're not going on the election day?
Oh, yeah.
No, did we talk?
Okay. I was thinking I saw one today for later in the week for
that was
else.
because do you remember like a month ago, Denise said she's going to be at a conference?
Oh,
And then Jamie said that would be fine to reschedule, and you sent me something, and then I just never.
Okay.
So I finally did that today.
Okay.
To get that changed.
So that was rescheduled. Maybe we should look at
Have the
rescheduling.
other two, is that going to be too hectic for everybody?
I think we talked about that because of polling in election places.
Highland would not be a problem.
I-
Ellis would be, Tyhe.
Well, Ellis is
Ellis
scheduled
We're
for
already.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So just
Friday.
Highland and Tyke.
So we'll check on Tyhe, Mrs.
Okay.
Craner, Mr. Kirch. Okay, let me follow up on those.
Okay.
Okay. And then the student discipline hearings, again, every other week would take us to November 7th. The 9th, political issues for Mr. Vitale, Mr. Manson. November 11th, Veterans Day, and then we'll get you a schedule. Historically, we've had some veteran programs. Sometimes the Friday before, if it falls on a weekend, or the Monday after, so we will let you know. And then that takes us to November 13th with that CTE program tour if the board adjusts the calendar tonight. And then we have ISBA convention Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the 14th through the 16th. And that takes us about.
And there's one other change, Renee. Today we learned that Judge Murray's meeting will be on the 13th. And he said, well, I hope Mr. Hobbs will be able to make it.
Okay, all right.
And then down here you have the Festival of Trees Gala. Do you need to know about our spouses?
Just email probably, but just I think the sooner that Courtney has numbers, the better. So.
Okay. So we can update that. And our availability for that.
Yes, we'll follow up. And then employee appreciation is that Wednesday. So we'll plan for 2 events. Yeah.
I didn't have the schedule with all of the Santa and royalty yet, so those are not there. But when I get them, I will have them.
Okay, that concludes your part?
That's it.
Okay. We're at the point now for public comment, and
no public.
And we've heard from you already.
Yeah,
So we will go on to our consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes to authorize the payment of claims, to approve the supplemental financial information, and to approve the human resource activity.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, under old business, I would entertain a motion to hear on second reading for adoption policy 8705. And do I do all of these at once? Can I
Just one at a time.
Yeah, I think that's what I could.
I move that we approve policy, on second reading for adoption, policy 8705.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item under old business is to approve those out-of-state and overnight travel requests. There were two.
I move that we approve the out-of-state and overnight travel requests. I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item under old business is to approve the financial audit management letter and direct submission to PCCS.
I move that we approve that financial audit management letter and direct its submission to PCCS.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item under old business is to approve the district strategic plan from 2018 to 2021.
I move we approve the district strategic plan.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is to affirm the Board of Trustees operating principles.
I move that we affirm the Board of Trustees operating principles.
One second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is to affirm the Code of Ethics for the school board members.
I move that we affirm the code of ethics for school board members.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item under old business, or the last item, yes, is to adopt the amended board meeting schedule, 2018-19.
I move that we approve that amended board meeting schedule for 2018-19.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, under new business, the first item is to accept the Pocatello Chubbuck School District Number 25 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018, and certify the annual financial condition statements.
I move that we accept the Pocatello Chubbuck School District Number 25 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018, and certify the annual financial condition statements.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations to them again. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is to approve the 2018-19 State Technical Assistance Team assurances for CSI Up Schools.
I move that we approve the 2018-19 State Technical Assistance Team assurances for CSI Up Schools.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is to grant permission to bid 2019-20 SIP related projects.
I move that we grant permission to bid 2019-20 SIP related projects. It seems so funny to be
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the last item is to approve the revised classified kinds and levels chart with the addition of the receiving clerk.
I move that we approve revised classified kinds and levels chart.
With
the addition.
You need to state that.
Which one was it?
The receiving clerk.
The receiving clerk. Sorry.
Okay.
Second.
I had tuned out by that. So, Jackie.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that concludes all of the business. Anyone have any announcements?
Yes, I have two.
All
One
right.
is that Kent Hobbs was honored at the NAACP banquet on Saturday night for his work in the community. So,
nice.
Special award for him. And then a reminder that the Bannock Development meeting is, I think, on the 18th. Or the 20th. Anyway, it's coming on.
That is the symposium?
Yes.
That is the Wednesday, the 24th or 26th?
Hold on. I wrote it on my calendar.
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday, so it's next.
Okay. It's on the 24th.
Any other announcements? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move the adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Kevin, thank you.
Yeah.
Did it run pretty smoothly?
Seems to.
Okay.
Now we'll just see what happens.
Okay.
If Courtney wants to upload it, and I know she wants to do live for the next one, so I'm hoping to have that 100% ironed out before then.
Okay.
So we should be good.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. And Courtney's going to issue one to do a Google or not, YouTube. She wanted to do it on YouTube and then just have it link on Facebook. I think the live is 2:13 for you.
Oh, okay. All right.
So she was hoping to get that.
So do you have papers that we're supposed to sign?
Oh, I do own them for you, Jackie, actually.
I know there's a couple things about that SAT with that stat one or something.
That one's for Doug to sign.
I think there's a place for me too.
No, it's just, it's verify that the board can approve it. And then our superintendent's signature to say, yes, the board approved this. The only thing